What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. As we wind down our weekend, everybody prepares to go back to work tomorrow and back to school and whatever else you got going on. But we're going to bring your weekend with a thought provoking topic like we like to do on some Sundays. This isn't really a Sunday sermon, it's going to be more information sharing and then an exchange of opinions. See what you have to say about this topic. I'll be posting the number so you can call in, or you can always, type your comments into the chat stream if you're over here on YouTube. And let's get started. What we're going to be talking about today, this year started off pretty bad with the eradication of Roe v. Wade. And, a lot of people were cheering for that. And I really was surprised that more women did not, demonstrate and fight against that. It's like, in some states, it really didn't really matter because they have their own state laws. But like here in California, it's like, whatever, because it didn't really change anything. But in other states, it put women in a real bind where they have to go outside of the state to get a termination if they need one or decide they want one. And some states are even trying to make laws, well, if you do go outside the state and get one, then we're going to prosecute you. So it's basically what they just really have the single-minded goal to control women's fertility. I just don't understand it. And then on the other hand, they want, women to be having all these babies. Then they jump up and down and cut all the social programs that would support the kids, for poor mothers. And then, now they're focusing on laws to eradicate children's rights for protection under the law, saying that they shouldn't have, statutory R, and that even children should be able to give consent, and there should be no statutory R license prosecutions. They want it to be legal. So you see what I'm getting, and I've been talking about this for years because I could see it. All the goals, all the movements were about getting access to as many what I call throwaway kids as possible. So by forcing women to have kids that they know they can't take care of, they put them in foster care. Then what happens to them? The kids disappear. All kind of stuff happens. We have kids here on this channel who have gone through the foster care system, and they have nightmares to tell about it. When my mother did foster care after all of us moved out, the kids would come. We buddy up with them and everything, and they would tell horror stories. So, this seems to be a universal thing where people who are predatory types look for children that don't have anybody to watch out for them and don't have anybody to protect them. So all you young ladies of childbearing years, you need to really tighten up on your birth control. Don't be just dependent on any man to tell you he's snipped or he can't have kids and all this old stuff here. Tighten that shit up, or you're going to be creating a problem not just for yourself, but for any children that you have and can't take care of. It's going to be a nightmare. We're going to talk about another aspect of that today, which is the divorce. So say you're married, you got married, you made that fatal error, and now you want to leave. Do you know there are men all over this country who are up in arms about no-fault divorce? They want to go back to the days where you had to have reason to leave them. And if you're a woman who's not making that much money, which, a lot of women don't, How are you supposed to get the money to hire a private detective and somebody to follow him around and take pictures of him cheating and all this kind of stuff? They don't have those kind of resources, especially when they're stuck at home with a couple of kids. So is you see what I mean? Every movement that these guys are making is about boxing women in to a place where they don't have any access, they have any rights, no autonomy over their own body, and can't do or say anything. That's what's going on. This stuff, if this keeps going another 10 or 20 years, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's be like that movie, The Handmaid's Tale. It's just ridiculous. So let's get started with this. I'm gonna have a slideshow, of course, because that's how I do things. Yeah, let me put my headphones on so that we can, as you guys start calling in with your comments, I can hear what you have to say, because if I don't do it now, I'll forget. It'll just be all bad. So let's do this. Okay. So this is the topic for today. Take notes. This is very important for all you youngsters. I'm past this age, but I still am very concerned, and I have no intention of getting remarried. So all of you who are talking about you want to get married and stuff, you are either brave souls, got your stuff so together that even if you do get a divorce, it won't impact you financially, mentally, or any other kind of way, or you're just dumb. So let's look at this, because the whole concept of marriage for women in light of this may need to be adjusted. So here we go. Oh, oops, I meant to take that out. Okay, now for those of you who have not done so, please navigate over to the YouTube page for this show, the show page, and vote in this poll. In about 30 minutes or so, I'm going to go over there and take a screenshot and make note of what the votes are, because there's 4 options. We're asking about your own perception of no-fault divorce, and should women be able, well, anybody, women or men, be able to leave a marriage without proving that there was abuse, adultery, or some other kind of egregious misconduct. Because, it could be like substance abuse. It could be, so many gambling, alcoholism, and all. There's be so many other things, but it's all under the term misconduct. So you get the 4 options: 100% in favor of no-fault divorce under any circumstances, for any time, at any time, and for any reason. No, because you think people divorce just too easily these days. And you're not sure, because who really decides what reason is good? I didn't have enough characters to put no decisions. I just put that part. And the final option is a divorce should be granted only if both parties agree to it. So there are 4 options there. Please pick one. It's on the YouTube show page for this broadcast. So this was on the top. This was on the table what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, on the heels of Roe v. Wade, their next line of attack is no-fault divorce. Since about, as many as 80%, some say 85, depending on the woman's socioeconomic, class, because the more money a woman has, the more likely she is to leave. So up to, just say, 80% of the divorces in the United States are initiated, heterosexual marriages, let's say, are initiated by the women. So if we look at that, and, no-fault divorce is eradicated so that everyone who wants to get a divorce has to prove abuse, misconduct, or adultery, then, or some there's a few other things too, like abandonment and some other stuff. But, you have to prove those. What is that going to do to women who are in miserable marriages where there may be other kinds of abuse? Because, not every abuse involves fists. Somebody calling you names every day and berating you and berating your children and being cruel to you is also abusive, but at least no marks. You go outside, nobody knows. People come to your house, if the person shuts up, they'll never know, but it's still abusive and it's still a horrible marriage, right? And then the final question is, what is the ultimate goal of men in this country? What is behind the eradication of rights to get access to birth control, access to terminations, the access to your kids with legal protections for them? What is all of that about? I'll tell you. Control. Now, why do men want so much control of women? I'm sure you guys have your own thoughts on that. This is all over the world. This is not just here in the United States, but these laws that we're talking about pertain to laws here. And so this what we live in the U.S. Well, at least I do. So that's where my greatest source of knowledge is. But men seem to very much want control. I mean, they're putting on wigs and dresses to try to take control of women's sports and women's dressing rooms and women's locker rooms and just women's opportunities for, business loan, everything. They want control. They don't want you to have anything. No rights that they can't take. No opportunities that they can't take for themselves. No independent decisions that they don't let you have. It's all about control. Now, who wants to control people? Only weak, scared, insecure individuals. Because if you have a sense of confidence about yourself, you're not trying to control anybody because you realize that, that goes two ways. If you want to control other people, that means your stuff's supposed to be so together that you have total control of yourself first. How many men do you know that have that control of themselves? Very few. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of men I could say have control of themselves. They might have it under some circumstances, but in general, they just, you'd be looking at them like, how did you think that was a smart decision? And why did you do that? And who told you that was a good idea? And what did you listen to them for? Stuff like that. We women, we scratch our heads and we look at them like, the side eye, like, what's wrong with you? Why? What? And you call yourselves leaders and people, you want people to submit to you, and this is as good as it gets from you. But for some reason, men want control. Yeah, you guys, I'll be asking for your thoughts. So keep, as we go through this, please listen carefully. I'll be inviting you to share your thoughts about it in a little bit. Let's go through my slides, though. First of all, this was from a slideshow that I did, I don't know, some months ago about single women and why women prefer to be single and childless. And I kept some of the slides because they are very pertinent to this particular discussion as well. So this guy here, he's a behavioral scientist, Paul Dolan, says, if you're a man, you probably should get married. But if you're a woman, don't bother. This is based on research that he did about the benefits and the risks for men and women within marriage. And his study proved that it's really not that a great deal for women because of all the emotional work that women do and all the physical work that women do to take care of men and households and children. So a woman's workload like quadruples when she becomes a wife and a mother, whereas the man is cut to like 10% of what it was. He doesn't make up his own bed anymore. He's not responsible for his own laundry anymore. He doesn't cook for himself anymore. He doesn't make his own doctor appointments anymore. The women assume responsibility for all of that, constantly reminding him to do stuff and doing things for him like a mother hen. Okay, Jen's all say she know 3. That's what I'm talking about. It's like a handful, and then all the rest of them are just like, what? You're looking at them like, what happened here? So, this is what he was saying that, men really benefit from being married and that women don't. And I think that these guys who are now fighting for this no-fault divorce, finally, they got it, right? They see how much they benefit. And they see that when she leaves, all the junk that they dumped on her to do for them, they now have to either find some other dummy to slide in there and do it, or they have to do it themselves. And so they're like, wait, my little life of comfort and ease is about to go up in smoke. Plus, I won't have nobody warming my bed at night and nagging me about stuff. I'll have to remember to do things myself. And it's just horrifying to them. So this was really important here. He reported that unmarried and childless women are more likely to outlive their married child-rearing counterparts and tend to be healthier as well. Because I know a lot of women who are married, they are depressed. They are antidepressants that I know. They're on Prozac or one of them kind of things like that. They have a lot of anxiety. They're always exhausted. They look older than their years because they're doing everything. They have so much demands on them. They never have time for self, you know, to do anything relaxing and stuff for themselves. Even like reading a book or sitting in the bathtub with a glass of wine or something. They don't get those options anymore because the kids or the man is always always wanting something. And they, for some reason, feel obligated to do it for them. So when we think about marriage, all these young women come here and they're like, oh, I want to get married, this and that. And I never tell people don't get married. What I have said for the last 30 years is understand the changes that being married will bring to your life. Are you ready? Are you ready? Is that really something that you really want? Are you just looking at the wedding part, the party? You looking at the party and you thinking that that's all there is to it. It's going to be all romantic and stuff like when you was dating. Oh, no. So something flips when men get married. Once they can say the term my wife, their whole concept of what you are in their life and what you should be doing and how you should dress and how everything else changes. I don't think a lot of them even think about it, but it does. You better be ready. You better be ready for the work that comes with the title of wife and mother. These are the kinds of things that women reported through several different studies I prepared for that other show, reading the kind of things that women put on the list of things that made them feel happy, that made them feel self-satisfied and full of, confidence and peace and, peace of mind, all this kind of stuff. These things here. And when you think about it, how many of these things come within marriage, your average marriage? Are you self-actualized in a marriage? Nope, that's something you do by yourself. Do you tend to have higher self-esteem when you're married? I have seen no evidence of that. Do you keep up with your self-protective boundaries? Nope, because a lot of women then get, afraid of that term. Well, you're a bad wife because you don't give, you're too selfish. You freedom of thought and action? Well, no, because you have to agree with your husband for the most part, whether you really do or not. I mean, publicly, their public face is going to be one of agreements until maybe y'all get home or something. But who's going to know that but you? Do you have emotional security? Judging by the amount of cheating that goes on and corner cutting and sliding into other women's DMs and stuff, I doubt that very many married women have that. Solid friendships. Who's friends with their husband? A few people, maybe. Those kind of friendships tend to be outside the marriage. Financial stability. Well, especially in the African American community, the women tend to be the ones that are more educated and holding down the jobs and making the most money. Sometimes the man's not working at all. It's just her. Good loving, maybe, maybe not. Too many women complain about it. So, it don't last long enough. That's not frequent enough. He's lazy. He's ED having or something going on. His pressure, his medications, something, it ain't really happening. Do you have a positive mental and emotional state just because you're married? You have to answer that one. I can't answer that one. Are you more accepting of yourself and other people because you're married? I see a lot of women, self-recriminating and judging themselves and condemning themselves. I don't know about that one either. Or your endeavors you consider to be very rewarding. What's rewarding about playing chauffeur, sous chef, grocery shopper, and maid 24/7? Those are the endeavors of a wife and mother. Where's the reward in that? Most of the time people chug down the food and don't even say, thank you, Mom. That was delicious, Mom. You're a great cook, Mom. You really do a lot for your family, Mom. We appreciate you, Mom. Husbands be forgetting wives' birthdays and Mother's Day and don't even get them gifts and stuff. Never think to bring them flowers. No sign of romance. So, I'm looking at this, right? You guys, I'm just saying, always think about what you think marriage is and why you want it. Why do you think that you want to be married? You better give it some serious thought because now you might be stuck. No matter what you thought it was going to be once you get in it, You're not going to be able to get out of it very easy if these laws go through. You're going to be stuck like women were in the 1940s, 30s, 20s, all that. Stuck until the very end of their lives, they were stuck, unless the man decided to leave them. So you better really think about this. Now, I have to admit that, if you have a good marriage, they say happy marriages will make you happy, but just saying being married, period, does not do that. It has to be a good marriage. Now, what kind of things would make somebody be in a good marriage? That's a good question. Because from my perspective, now, those of you who know me, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't see where parents, schools, religions, any social structure is teaching people, at least here in the United States, is training young people to be good husbands and wives. It's not happening. There's a lot of meism, narcissism, verbal and emotional abuse, especially on the internet, towards women, a lot of misogyny. And so, these skills, these are things I think are the basic foundation for a good marriage. You'd have to have the ability to listen with empathy. Even something as simple as a woman talking about menstrual cramps. Oh, you just making that up. It can't be that bad. You women this and you women that. That's not empathy. So, how's that going to make a woman feel? She has to deal with this every month for like 40 years or something. And that's the best you can do. Expressing gratitude, like I was just saying, thank you, please, you're wonderful, you're so nice, you're so sweet, you just bring me joy, that kind of stuff. Forgiveness. I mean, you're going to be able to hold a grudge forever? You're going to be mad and pouting and stuff for weeks and not talking to somebody? The ability to know how to work as a team, that requires a balance and shift of power. Men don't want to give up power. They want to be in control all the time. So how can you work as a team if you always want to be the captain? You can't always be the captain. You don't know all the moves and you don't know all the plays. Somebody else is going to know them better sometimes, and that person should step up to be the captain, and that means you take a team seat. But oh no, they don't want to do that. They think they know everything, and so they end up really messing up a lot of stuff. You have to be considerate. You have to have patience. You have to be open and honest in your communication, not to the point of brutality, but don't hide things. Don't tell half-truths. Let your partner know what you're feeling and what you're thinking. They can't fix a problem that you never tell them about, that kind of stuff. And people aren't being taught those kinds of things. They're not being taught that at home. They're definitely not seeing it modeled in their parents' marriage. What marriage? Where? Even if the parents are married, a lot of people report their fathers are just absent. He's either checked out emotionally or he's just working all the time or doing whatever he's doing. He's not really interacting with his wife and kids. So, when you look at it, it's like, okay, when you say you want to get married, are you really ready? I mean, even if you met somebody who's nice, do you have these basic skills? Does he? How are you going to stay married if you don't? And you can't develop this in them little counseling sessions that you go through before you go to, like they do with the little churches and stuff, with the little pastors and the priests and stuff. Oh no, this is a lifetime of learning. These are the kind of things that your parents have to start teaching you in infancy. If you grow up and then suddenly you're 25 and you think that you're going to be just magically adapt yourself rather to these skills, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's too late. So basically, there could be a lot of good things about it, of being it doesn't have to be marriage, a long-term committed relationship, but we're using marriage for this because we're talking about divorce, and you can't get divorced unless you're actually legally married. So kind of have to stick to that. But, these are the things they're good. I mean, if you have those skills that I talked about, you can have a really good relationship. You can really thrive and blossom. You can see positive change and growth in both you and your spouse. But who really has that these days? Like I said, is that what women are really getting when they decide to get married? If they are, then why are 80% of them jumping right back out of them and filing for divorce? You see what I mean? It's just not matching up. Something's not matching up. So now let's talk about this because this is I just want to cover like the basics of marriage first so that you have some framework. Now we're going to talk about these fault and no fault divorces because this is it's getting ready to be all bad if these laws change. Okay, now let's first talk about 6 of the top reasons because these lists are all over the internet. But what I did is, and this was last year or so when I did this show, when I did all this research, these were what I found were I massaged them around into 6 basic categories that seem to get the most votes from women all over the internet. So women report feeling taken for granted and overly responsible for everything in the relationship. That means in the household, with the kids, with the marriage, with buying gifts, with cooking, shopping, cleaning. They feel like they've been dumped on and they get tired of it. And they feel like if I'm going to have to be like a single mother, I may as well be one. And then all the burden of having to deal with him and his mess, well, at least that'll be off my plate. And I could, the time I would have spent being bothered with him and his wants, I could spend it on myself and trying to, re-engage with my friends and having some joy in my life that makes me happy. Right. So that's one. Number 2, they keep having the same arguments over and over. Nothing ever gets resolved. They just go in a circle. Do you know how tedious and boring and depressing that is? You just feel like you're caught in a hamster wheel. And what was that show, that movie, Groundhog Day? And the same thing over and over. You wake up and it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Oh my God. Number 3, unsatisfying intimacy. Now, there was a lot of things under that category. Like I said, I lumped them all together. Either he was too violent, didn't last, something was wrong, he didn't do anything, stuff just was not happening. So I just put it under unsatisfying for whatever reason. Communication breakdown, stonewalling, triangulation, gaslighting, a lot of narcissistic type communication behaviors. The women he never talks to them. They feel like they're not, like they're like a ghost in their own relationship. And they don't I don't even know who he is anymore. We never talk. We never share anything. He's like a stranger to me. They say stuff like that. Or she figures that she's outgrown him. She kept going to school. She kept advancing. She was in therapy. She was reading books about self-help books and stuff and trying to make herself a better, more positive, more level-headed, smarter person. He didn't want to do anything. He sit there with the remote in his hand or playing video games all day. So she's, matured and grown past him. And she looks at him and she realizes I'm with someone who is still at the mental level of a 20-year-old. And we're now in our 50s and he's had nothing's changed here. And I think that's what men don't understand. Women need to see growth. Women need to see change. That's why women like these project type men. But it's basically, I encourage those kind of women to take a class and start getting into crafts or something. You want to be creative and you want to have a project. Do something you can hang it on the wall. You can put it on your bed or you could sell it. Okay, all that time and energy you putting into somebody else's son, that's what his mama was supposed to do, not you. And then the final one, when she has exhausted every possible option, every talk tried to get him to therapy, or maybe they've even gone, but it didn't work. She's talked until she's blue in the face. She's asked for time together. She's asked for anything for him, and he just shuts everything down and thinks that the marriage is okay because he's fine. So, all her stuff that she's saying, he tunes her out. So then finally she just gets fed up and then she leaves him. And then that's the one who's always sitting around with the Pikachu face. Well, it just came out of nowhere. I thought we were happy. Where she's been asking him for different changes and stuff for years sometimes. And they just blow her off because he getting what he wants out the deal. So why should I listen to you? So see what I mean? So that's when the men end up in divorce court and they be looking stupid and trying to figure out what happened. Yeah, they get surprised. And then they had a Pikachu face. They be trying to act like brand new. So let's talk about this no fault divorce. California, of course, leading the pack. We always do. Was the first state to enact a no fault divorce. And that was in 1969. And I think New York was the last and didn't do it until like 2010 or 2011 or something like that. Ridiculous. Okay, so this law, though, they started studying the rate of, the S rate of married women, and it dropped the rate of domestic violence and female unaliving, self-unaliving, dropped by more than 20%. That's a big jump because women could leave abusers. They could leave men that were making them depressed. They no longer had to feel like there was no way out except dying. They could leave, and they didn't have to spend money hiring a detective when they didn't have any and stuff like that. They could just file the paperwork and they could go. Even if they didn't want to split, they didn't want to have any property, they didn't want anything, they just wanted their freedom, they could do that. Because, just because you get a divorce and you can get half doesn't mean that you have to take it. Some of those women, they didn't want nothing. I just want to be away from him. That's all I want. Anything else I need, I'll get it some other way. He can have all his stuff because I don't want him having to talk to me about anything or ask me anything or having any kind of problems because I left with any of what he considers to be his stuff. I don't want his stuff. I'll get my own stuff. They just want to get away from him. So, it was good. Now, this is what the study I was reading, they said, well, it's probably due to these two reasons here. One, that the women who were being abused could, more easily just get away from the dudes, right? I just talked about that. But also because the potential abusers knew that they could be more easily left, right? They was like, oh, wait, if I act too much of a fool, she's going to leave me. Then what am I going to do? So they ratcheted that back and ratcheted that down. So they felt like that. Those were the two contributing factors. I think it's mostly number one, though, but that's just my opinion. Now let's talk about no-fault divorce. What are the tenets of no-fault divorce? Basically, it means that the person who's filing does not have to prove any fault or responsibility, no negative behavior on the part of the other partner, which you have to do in a fault divorce. So all states recognize no-fault divorce, but as of 2021, so that's, it's 2 years ago, only 19 states had true no-fault divorce, and that's the only option that you have for filing is no fault. I'll show you a chart of the ones that offer no fault and fault divorces in their state. Typically, no fault is called, and here in California, it's irreconcilable differences. In some states, it's irreparable breakdown of the marriage. So it's, usually going to fall into one of those two categories from state to state, county to county, because these things change. The rule is that the person who did not file cannot object. There's no way, there's no recourse. The person that wants to get away from you files for divorce. There's nothing you can do about it. You're just going to have to eat it and accept it because they don't want to be with your behind no more. And you just shut up and just go away. That's why the men are mad. See, because with no fault divorce, when a woman she doesn't need their permission. She doesn't need their cooperation. She doesn't need their buy-in. And they don't like that. Why? Because they need control. And by her being able to have that kind of freedom, it gives her a certain element of control over her own self. The problem is, though, that they have this like cooling period where you have to live separately for a certain amount of time before you can actually file for divorce. That's where things get tricky. Yeah, no fault is good, but this one part here, that's why I put it in red, is kind of a problem, and I'll show you why. When you're still married, but you don't live with them, what happens? Okay, so you get moved out or he moves out or something. Now, say he was the only one working. So, the bills and everything is in his name because he was the breadwinner, right? So this is one of the reasons I have such a problem with these young ladies who are on these channels, promoting this femininity and have a man take care of you stuff. I would never agree with that, ever agree with that because of stuff. This is what happens to you when it's time for you to go. If he that kind of dude, unless he put some stuff in your name. So 7 states require that your couples live in separate households before divorce can be filed. It's like North and South Carolina has to be at least a year. Delaware, Louisiana, Montana, Vermont, and Virginia, it has to be 6 months. In Florida, West Virginia, and Wyoming, it can be as little as 1 month, like 20 days. So it's, By the time it takes you to pack up and hire a U-Haul, I mean, it's over. And Massachusetts, though, is the crazy. They want you to be at least 300 days. So they right in there with North and South Carolina. But what the problem is, it creates this state of limbo, right? Because you're married, but you're not really with them. So, there's no like, I mean, unless you see a lawyer and get this stuff all worked out in advance, just as a temporary thing. What, you don't really having nothing settled. These are the kind of situations where the husband goes and drains all the money out the bank account or starts selling off marital assets. And there's nothing that the woman can do about it because, they're separated, but they're still married. So he's got, control over that kind of stuff and can do her real dirty because she's not there. They also get real funny style with, child custody and visitation and child support. It gets ugly during this period where the women are, married but not with them. And then they want to tell you who you can't have around their kids. They want to just be showing up at your house. They want to start, if they're the violent kind, they want to continue doing that just because you moved doesn't mean that they're not going to still be coming around, drunk and stupid and just acting a fool where you are in your new place. Some women get evicted because of that. And they can't really do much about it because technically they're still married. You see what I mean? It creates a very dangerous and very weird situation for the woman who's trying to get away from some guy who's not treating her well. I don't know why these states have that. I mean, it's like the second the woman files, that should be it. I don't understand why you got to, why you have to live apart a year and all this kind of stuff. Why can't you leave and file for divorce that day and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that works for us. Here you go. So there you go. So 85% of women are the abuse victims, and it just makes them have a very, very weird kind of limbo. It's just, I don't understand why the states do it that way. So now let's talk about fault. If you have a divorce where there is fault, in some states, if you can prove that the other person dogged you out in one of the fault categories, it can mean that you get a greater percentage than half. Not all states, but in some. So it's like the cheater gets, which, is usually the husband, since the women are filing for 80% of divorce. He gets like she gets a cheating stipend or an abuse stipend of an extra percentage of the marital assets because he clowned. But like I said, in most states, it's not like that, but in a few it is. Now, what are fault reasons? These, and like I said, I want to remind you, the reasons vary from state to state and county to county. So there's no one policy that applies everywhere. But these are some of the things that if you live in a state or county with fault divorce, that you might be facing. You have to, adultery, abandonment, like say they just took off and you don't know where they are. I'm going to buy me a pack of cigarettes and you ain't seen them in a year or two. They go into prison and they're going to be there for the next umpteen decades because there's something broken and he can't do no nook thing, especially if this condition existed before marriage and they didn't tell you about it. So you're getting tied up with them and then suddenly you find out they had this issue. Well, that's fraud. And so that's a fault too. That's why, people are like, I'm going to wait until I get married. I'm like, you stupid. Okay. Or the other spouse has inflicted emotional or physical pain. That's considered cruelty. And the part that's the good part, though, is that there's no living apart requirement. So if you find out he cheated and you got pictures and you got, proof and you file for divorce, is the clock starts ticking that day. So that's a good thing about a fault divorce. Now, so you file a fault divorce, what can they say back? Because remember, in no fault divorce, there's no comeback. You just got to eat it. They file it and it's no fault divorce. There, you have no comeback, nothing. You can't say nothing. You just have to say, okay, well, I guess we're getting a divorce, and that's it, right? They don't need your buy-in or something. But when the case is a fault divorce, you do have some options. Now, these are some of the things. Collusion. That's like, you guys agree that you're going to create some fake pictures and some, fake whatever to try to fabricate meet the standards for a fault divorce. And then the court finds out that you colluded to, do this little trickeration. Well, they might not let you get a divorce if they find that out. Provocation, that's where one spouse provokes the other one to act in a certain way, maybe doing a setup with somebody, in their house in bed that he thinks is you or something. I mean, whatever. It could be something like that. Recrimination, you're engaged in similar conduct themselves. So, like, you go back and revenge cheat, but you didn't file for divorce. When he did it, you did revenge cheating, and now you want a divorce. Well, he can hit you with this recrimination and say, well, she did the same thing, so we shouldn't have to get a divorce because we're equal. Condemnation, that means you knew about it, right? So you women who forgive people, this is you. You knew he cheated. You knew he did something, and then you let yourself be talked out of it, right? So now you back in the marriage, and then suddenly you decide, well, this isn't really working out after all. But you told everybody that you forgave him and you stayed back in the marriage and everything. He can get you under that one, and you will not get a divorce in a fault state. Or connivance, that's where you allege that you agreed to do it. Like you people who like to do swinger things and all this kind of fancy stuff, and then suddenly you decide that that's really, that it hurts you too much and you don't want to still be married to him. Well, you shouldn't have done that. I'm not to say that you still can't get a divorce, but it's going to be harder. So, you have to think about this kind of stuff. If you got a husband that's doing weird, stupid stuff and you partake and involve yourself in it too, in a state where there's only a fault divorce, you setting yourself up. That would be a mistake. So, how do you have to prove fault in a fault divorce state county? It can be very costly to hire a private detective. It can be very time consuming. Even if you and your friends want to drive around and try to spy up on them, you got to at least be reimbursing gas and stuff, right? These kind of cases usually require a witness or two or three or five. Well, yes, I saw her with black eyes. Yes, I saw him at, the Cheesecake Factory all hugged up with this woman. You got to have some witnesses. But, the main thing is, in overwhelmingly the courts, if no matter what, I mean, they still will grant the divorce anyway. So why spend all that money? I mean, you just allege it and then they have to prove that it's not true, right? And like I repeat, remember that the concepts of these types of divorces, fault and no fault, vary from county to county and state to state. So before you know what you're trying to get ready to do, think about, look into the laws and stuff that apply to the state and the county where you reside. These are the states that have both fault and no fault divorce. Notice California's not there. We only have no fault. A lot of states only have no fault. These have both. But that may change. Now, this guy is one of the main ones who, got everybody's attention some months ago why I wanted to do this show. He has a YouTube show. I never watched it, but there's a video, about a 3-4 minute video that's flying around online of him verbally abusing his pregnant wife. It's like a 3-minute tirade of him acting a fool, calling this woman all kind of names, and then want to be getting all and acting all brand new when she decides to file for divorce from his stupid behind. He wants to have divorce, alimony, and child support laws changed. I'm of the mind, ladies, don't have child support laws changed. Give him the kids. Give them to him. You don't want to pay child support, you don't have to pay a dime, but you're going to take these kids. I don't want nothing from you, but you take these kids. That's what you're going to do. So then they want control. Here you go. And then you get on the first thing smoking and fly to the other side of the world, and there you stay. Because, you can do Zoom calls and stuff from anywhere and have visitation with your kids. This is a direct quote from him. This just to show you how this idiot thinks. If you're a woman that comes from meager means, he says, and you want to get wealthy, you've never worked, you didn't get a degree, you have no skill set, but you're good looking, your best path to victory is simply to marry a man, then leave him and take half. Now that might be nice if you're a white woman and or you marry some white guy that's balling like that. Your average brother ain't pulling down that kind of change, right? Likely you matching 50% of the income, if not more, in your household. So, you can see these white guys, they don't really have an idea of what goes on in any household, any situation, any ethnicity groupings other than their own. That's all they know and that's all they talk about. Yeah, he's a clown. He's a clown. He looked like a clown. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, girlfriend, the woman who married him, what was you thinking? He looks stupid. Like his eyes don't look right to me. I mean, he just looks like somebody who's like a narc and just a control freak. They have the same kind of anxious, um, I don't even know how to explain it. It's this weird, like hungry, uh, desire, anxious look. And they all have that same face. And they talk fast and um it's just they all the same to me, but just weird. He's king, baby. Y'all ragging on dude. Now I'd like to share. I have a couple of quotes from women about this situation that pulled up from around the internet. So fake plastic flower. Well, I think their screen names were a trip. California, like Texas, is a community property state. Assets acquired during the marriage are split evenly upon divorce. Don't like it? Well, then next time, marry someone who won't give up her career and pick up your own damn socks. Or try being a less shitty husband so she doesn't want to divorce you. Bingo! That's the part these guys don't seem to think about. Like they always talk about, well, when you get married, then she's going to leave you. Why would she leave you, though? If a woman is being treated well and loved, she's not going anywhere. The fact that these women all get sick of your asses and then head down to the courthouse means it's a whole bunch, like I said earlier, nobody really is being trained to be a good, spouse. But especially men, if you're going to assume leadership of a household and a family, you have to know what the hell you doing. You have to have a plan. You have to be a man of your word. You have to have leadership skills. You have to be able to make plans and do and execute those plans. You have to be able to communicate what the program is so your wife and kids can buy into it. You don't have a plan except sitting on the couch and playing video games. You can't even take out the trash without being reminded. You throw your clothes all over the floor, but you expect your kids to keep their rooms clean while your wife picks up after you like you too. This kind of stuff. I'm just, whew, girl. So Antigone says, it's funny how when you pay a nanny, a driver, a daycare, and a domestic cleaner to do it, it's suddenly a job. But if you're a wife and you're doing it for free, it's no longer work. And what she's talking about is that when they don't want to reimburse you, they don't think you should get half because you weren't working, you didn't do anything. But look, who you think did all this other stuff? The fairies, some gnomes? That's work. And the horrible thing about it is he only going to work for 8 or 9 hours a day. Her job is 24/7. She never gets a break. It's just amazing that they think that it's their money. This one says, if guys like this Crowder had to pay fair market rates, not only for housework and childcare, but to have someone sleep with them, they'd realize that half of their measly income is a bargain. And she's right. C. Montgomery Burner says, look, it's either care about your family or spend time getting swole. I was cross rolling. It can't be both. He had to make a choice. Yep. And Nikki says, Crowder's saying like 6 times that he's only getting divorced because Texas law allows his wife to leave him is the kind of shit that Dateline episodes are made of. Yep. Allows. Like she is supposed to be there, forced to stay with him like chattel, an indentured servant. It's just this guy. Y'all better rethink this marriage thing. You better think hard. This is just my opinion here. Talking about, is it better to be married, is it dating, or none of the above? As the rates of marriage continue to fall, and this is not just in the United States, it's worldwide, even in traditional Asian nations where marriage is like the core of their society, the young women are turning their back on it. They don't want to be bothered. It's too restrictive. They don't want to have any kids. They find the men to be too misogynistic. They don't want to do housework. They don't want to help out. They just want to have the wife there parked at the house like a slave. They're like, oh, no, no, no. Especially in those cultures where they move into the husband's house and the daughter-in-laws, take over the house, all the cooking and cleaning and stuff like that. Oh, they're like, oh, hell no. I'm not doing that. So if governments, all of you got to these governments like over in Japan, they're trying to incentivize, you know what I'm trying to say, young women and men to get together to be married and have kids because, the population is aging and there not too many people are having children, right? The young Japanese women are like, screw these dudes. I'm not trying to be bothered with them. So, you have this happening all over, like even here, that's why they keep closing down avenues for women, trying to make women have babies. So if these governments want marriage and they want families, they want to keep they want a young set of population to help support the older aging population, right? They need somebody to do these jobs and stuff and keep the nation afloat. You got to figure out ways to facilitate that. How are you going to make that be something that's attractive to young women? Something that they would feel comfortable doing, that they would see as a benefit to their lives and to, having a family. How is it's going to be something that's going to be good for them? When they ask, what's in it for me? You have a long list of stuff. That's what's in it for them. Right now, that list is like in negative 50. There's no incentive for young women to get married and have kids and be with a man and stuff. He's a headache and he's a lazy bum. He don't do shit, don't want shit, and ain't about shit. So, I mean, what is there for her to want that for? She'd be balling backwards to get with most of these dudes. They're like infants, mentally and emotionally like infants. They can't give anything. They can't support her emotionally. They can't even support themselves emotionally. They flip out about every goddamn thing. They don't have any kind of dreams other than winning on the video game. That's their only source of entertainment. They don't read books. They have nothing to talk about. The young men of today are just weird. I mean, they're just weird. And most of them are, popcorn addicts and stuff. It's just crazy. So, I mean, they have no sense of ability to be emotionally intimate with a woman. So it's like these girls are struggling because they want to have a relationship and they think they want to get married and have kids and all this stuff here. So they're finding these dudes and they're trying to work with them and try to, make them mature and all this kind of stuff, where the dudes have arrested development. Parents, if you have sons, do better. Do better. Make them get jobs, make them do chores around the house, make them be responsible for stuff. They're just bums. And then you kick them, they go to college and stuff and leave there, and then they're still bums. And then you want to turn them out into the world and think you're going to have grandchildren and stuff. Nobody wants your kid, your son. He's nothing stupid. Okay, and you did that. So, this whole thing, the way that they're going about it, trying to like box women in by force, by eliminating abortion, eliminating access to birth control for poor women, and eliminating no-fault divorce, you're trying to force women to be in relationships that they don't want to be in. You need to make men better. There needs to be some kind of organized thing, like one of the doctors said on the earlier broadcast we did, to train men on how to be husbands and fathers, how to be people that women want to associate with, how to have conversations and interact with people in a wholesome, healthy way. Mass care, group counseling, I don't know what it's going to take. But the violence that young men have, the sense of entitlement to women, their nasty attitudes, the name calling, they're awful. They are awful people, and nobody wants to be around them. So the idea of women getting with these dudes, I mean, you women who do it anyway, that's why you write this advice column all the time. You're suffering. You're being emotionally and mentally and sometimes physically and sexually abused in your relationships, but you just refuse to leave them because you're so hungry to have one. You better be happy. You better be looking at being good to yourself, because this ain't it. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I think the main thing that needs to happen is men, adult men, the ones who are sensible husbands and fathers, need to form some kind of organization and start training young men. It has to be, men have to do it. It's not our job. So let me go over to the YouTube channel and pull this poll. I hope you all got a chance to vote on it. Why's my computer so slow today? Hmm. Yeah, it's just super slow for some reason. Okay, what are my poll results? 83% said 100% in favor of no fault divorce. 1% said no. Who decides got 10%, and only if both parties agree to it got 6%. I'm going to keep it open though, in case more people want to vote. But that's what's there right now. Okay, so that's most of the people here tonight agree that no fault divorce is the way to go. That's good. That means I made my argument, because that's what. Now let's have some discussion. Okay, you guys want to call in? You want to call in with your thoughts on this topic? Let me post uh, the studio number. You just click that link and you can share your comments on the air, or of course you can put your comments in the chat room. You probably have been doing that all along, but with the slideshow up, everything's covered. Preparing boys to be good men starts at home. Oh, absolutely. It starts, seriously, like when they're still in diapers. That's where it starts. Should be teaching males to be better men. Well, schools, yes. Churches, no, because most males aren't up in churches. Remember? That's women that are in church. Well, at least in the Black community. It's full of women. Not the young men are not in church. Those are women. But I agree, the schools ought to definitely, have some kind of like conduct, or how to be a gentleman or something. I don't know, something. I mean, you used to have shop and what was that called? Homemaking or something like that for the girls, and they had shop class and stuff for the boys, and ROTC and stuff, like, they had these other little elective type classes. But it should be something just like they do health. They ought to teach young men how to be a gentleman. Teach them how to put on a tie and pull out a chair and help a lady with a coat, and how to make conversation, and how to, different little social niceties. They ought to do this in school, because a lot of parents are stupid. And they're not teaching their kids anything. How can they teach something that nobody taught them? But I think this will be a good thing, even if it's a program that some nonprofit agency sets up and goes around and does in the schools. Okay, those of you who are good at grant writing, think about that. Setting up a nonprofit, and that's what you do in your schools in your area. I've always thought that fraternities would be a great place for that, because those are like guys who are, movers and shakers and professionals and educators and stuff. They already have a platform. They're already known in their communities. All they have to do is set it up. They're already a 501(c). So they could just have this little option, a program that they all, the Kappas have one, the Omegas have one, the Alphas have one, and y'all, they go out into the community and they do these things. And then whatever the white boys fraternities, they can do it too. But that young men need to take charge of this, and organize this kind of stuff, and teach these boys how to fucking act, because they just are stupid and they don't know anything. It's just depressing. Okay, let me get this is Dell. Wait a minute, just unmute you. You have to unmute yourself, I guess. I tried to unmute you and it didn't happen.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, there you go. So what's your comment?
Um, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's what I said. What's your comment?
Oh, I was just going to. Oh, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Let me just make sure that everything's muted here. Okay, yes. So I just wanted to tap in with what you were saying before because I'm coming from more of like a younger generation. I'm 25 right now, and I see how like men aren't really participating in courtship or not really necessarily want to engage in that because on their end they're seeing it as a risk, like, oh, I take a girl out to a dinner, and if she doesn't want to sleep with me that night, it's like a waste of time. I just feel like men these days, they're not necessarily hungry enough for companionship, or at least it's almost like they would rather have prostitution almost than
Mm-hmm.
courtship. um that's what I'm just seeing a lot now. So it's funny how they're trying to outlaw no fault divorce, because it's like the men just don't want better. So I'm just curious to know, do you feel like maybe a way to help this birth rate crisis would be to legalize that type of work?
No,
Or is
absolutely
it
not.
just mainly teaching men? Because I think the status now is like 70% of men watch porn.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure.
Oh, it's probably higher than that. But yeah, it is when I'm talking about it, and we call it popcorn. We use a euphemism on the channel. We don't say the actual word. Um, I see, and it's causing a lot of dysfunction, like physical dysfunction. So even when they are in a relationship, they can't perform because their bodies are so desensitized to normal human intimacy. They're just with a woman. They can't do it. So it creates a situation where they just continue to rely on that because, that's what they like. But they try to be in a relationship and the woman's not getting anything out of it. So of course she gonna bounce. Or if she decides to stay and cheat, I mean, I guess some women do that too. But I think the solution is, as I said, because I've given this a lot of thought, men are going to have to step up and take charge of the socialization and training of other younger men. That's the only way this is going to work. It used to come from fathers, but if fathers not being in the home anymore, it's going to have to come from other people that they consider to be role models. That's who it's going to have to come from. But I hate that for you. I mean, I think back when I was 25, guys were, it was still cool, but that was
That's right.
dinosaurs roaming the earth then.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for that. The good insight. Thank you. Yes, and she's right in that age group I'm talking about. It's on 25-year-olds. Um, it's sad. Okay, lovely. Let me get you in here. You gotta unmute your mic.
Hi, how are you, Miss Debbie?
Is this Tay Lovely?
No, this is lovely.
Okay, because
Now,
we can.
I've never called you on any lives, but I started watching you in 2018.
Wow, you've been around a long time.
Well, I was glad to find you because I was stupid and I needed to learn. I was stupid and I
See, like,
needed to
let me
learn.
just testify. Let me just.
It's the truth. It's just certain things that I wasn't taught, and I'm 42. And, my parent, they did the best that they could do. But given the circumstances, I am of African descent. And, I don't even have to explain because we know all of the dynamics there.
Yes, we
But
do.
I can say my parents, she did the best she could do. My grandmother, and I'm actually glad she raised me because I wouldn't be the person that I am today. But what I wanted to say is that the reason why I have a couple things to say. The reason why this is happening because they've come to the conclusion, the powers that be, that hey, we're not going to have enough population for the jail. We're not going to have enough people around to be like to take care of the elderly people.
Right.
So these are some of the two major things that they're looking at. They got to keep an underclass, to take care of the elderly and to be trickled into the jail systems. And this is why they have, and have done this. This is part of it. And then their women are not giving birth to children as much either. So they're like, we got to have somebody on the bottom. We got to have somebody on the top. So they want the same stuff to continue to go on and on. And this happens every so many hundreds of years in societies anyway. And they just do the same thing again, give incentives for, the women or the men to procreate. What they're trying to do in America is just total control. And the
Right.
bottom line is, the reality is, I don't even want to get married. I was married. I got rid of him. He was from another country, and I was so glad to get rid of him. It was such a peace of mind. He was just trying to come over here to take advantage. And I was like, okay, this is something else I have to learn. And the learning
Yeah.
lesson was, he flew out the door fast because I didn't want to be bothered. So I got rid of him. But
Well, my rule. Y'all know you've been around since 2018. You done heard me say it. I don't be messing around with nobody with an accent. If
I
it
don't
ain't from
know.
the Bronx or I don't know,
I don't.
something I recognize. I'm not. No, we can't do it.
I tried, because even the things that I recognize, they are things.
Yes,
It's not really much of a good quality of men around from what I see. And even though I am going to take other routes to dating, but I don't want to marry anybody. There is no benefit to it. And I think that, like you said, I don't think that the women should get married, and they should take birth control.
got to
This
keep that BC game tight.
real tight. You and use condoms, because they'll give you diseases still.
Hmm.
It's really bad, and it's just, I feel sorry for the women in the younger generations, because if the women are not willing to teach them anything, first of all, young women have to be taught how to navigate, who to look for, how to date them, which is what you're
That's
doing.
what I'm here for. Yep.
That's what you're
But
doing.
is it to teach basically because I want them to know. I don't want them to get stuck with a knucklehead. I don't want them to fall for his representative and get tricked into a situation where they're, thinking they wifey and it's going to mean something, having babies and buying houses with these clowns, and then getting themselves just messed up financially, physically, mentally, and emotionally. When they didn't have to do that. And so it's an uphill battle, but
But they have to listen too, because of a lot of young girls, they don't like to listen. They're rebellious, and they have to be willing to listen, you
you're
know,
right. Well,
be
let me
and
we got a couple other people on hold now. The phone line's filling up here, so let me go and get some of these other calls. But thank you much for sharing those thoughts. Those are good ones. It was,
okay.
I like that. How you got rid of them.
Yeah,
That
because
was hilarious.
he was trying to, I would tell you, he wasn't paying no bills, and I said, oh, I got to get rid of him. I divorced him quick, fast, in a hurry.
There you go, girl.
Yeah,
Thank
because
you.
they're terrible. They're terrible, and you gotta get rid of them.
That was funny. All right, let's get you in here, Janine. Oh wait, what's going on here? It says device not connected. Okay, you got to get your mic and stuff connected. In the meantime, let me get Diamond Princess in here. You got to unmute yourself.
Hello,
There you
Dad.
go. What's happening, Chica?
I'm good. I recently just lost my mom, so
Oh,
yeah, I'm still trying to get over it right now.
that's going to take a minute.
Yeah, I'm trying to push through life and trying to be an adult and and just realize that death is just part of life. You know what I mean? But it's still hard because at the end of the day, that's still my mom.
So you have something you want to say on the particular topic?
Well, I've been looking, uh, recently at men and how, they feel about, quote unquote Western women and how the feminist movement just ruined relationships. But these guys, they refuse to see the problem within themselves and not realizing that I might be the problem. Why my dating or my relationships are the problem? And it's really scary with these guys when you guys have guys that have like negative mindsets on how women should be, how what roles women should play. They think that women should be like housewives. They should not have rights to say anything. They're going back past the civil rights movement,
Right.
where
What's all
women
that
didn't.
noise in your background? Can that you
Oh,
quiet
sorry.
that down?
Yeah, I was drying my clothes. I was washing clothes, but let me go into another one. Okay, so is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of scary that you have men out here that think that way, and they never have fathers in their lives to teach them
Exactly.
the man and how a man should, you know, move in the world. Like some of these guys, they're just like men just carrying purses. Like they like it's true because
Uh,
guys expect you to take care of them, but they don't consider how you feel, or they don't ask you what you want. It's all about they make it about them most of the time, and not not reciprocating the woman.
right.
You hear that all the time because especially when you hear it online, it's all about them and not the woman. They have no interest in having a relationship. They just want to rule the woman or just make her his slaves.
Yeah.
And when the woman says no, I'm not doing all that, then he wants to jump on a boat, a plane, or however he wants to get to another country and try to take advantage of the women over there.
Yeah,
You
those are the
know?
worst kind of men. You're going to just prey on somebody that you think doesn't have the resources or the education to defend themselves against you. Those are the worst kind of dudes. They try to present themselves as being, like the superior man because they have a passport and all that stuff. In reality, the way that they present themselves is
Mhm.
straight predators. And
Right.
you going to a country where people are poor and don't have many options to flaunt what you think is your wealth with your post office salary, and then and to take advantage of people. That to me, those are the worst kind of guys. When I hear them dudes talking about, they call them the passport bros. To me, they are just trash, garbage, like lower than snail slime. I just
Yeah,
don't like it.
yeah. I don't like them either, but I just wish they would go away.
I know. You don't have to go
No,
to a foreign country, just go
yeah,
somewhere.
no way. I don't like stop talking about American women because let's be honest, all these men can get over there are prostitutes. Like if you
No, that's
see,
not true. That's not true. They get that's not true at all. They go and they find young women who have a dream. They usually tend to be very pretty, and they think if they're going to, have a boyfriend, they're going to get an American and or European or whatever, that he's rich because that's how they come over there, right? With their new clothes and all the stuff, talking about the stuff that they have and everything, which a lot of them don't have it. But these young girls, they don't know that's
because
not true. They're taking advantage of people who are looking for a better life. And a lot of these girls are just, they want to get married. They want to have a kid. I mean, they figure they may as well, if they're going to get married and deal with the same drama that we're talking about tonight, it may as well be with somebody who's got some options for them, who can send them their parents and send younger sisters and stuff some money and send their family to school because he got a job in America or in London or something. So, it
yeah,
may
and
ultimately feel like that from our perspective, But to me, to have that title, that means that you're in business and that's what you do versus you trying to look for a way out. And you think getting married to somebody from one of these countries is the best option first. Because, you know, if you get married to somebody, why get married to a broke man? Get married to somebody with some money. At least you get a little bit of a come up.
Yeah,
But
because they
I got to go. Let me run and deal with some of these other comments and stuff on here from these people. But thank you
okay,
for calling. Okay.
no problem. Thank you.
All right. You guys have some good comments here. Let me see. Let me scroll up here and get some of these on here. If you want to call, this is the number. I see Janine, but it's something. I'm getting an error code. It says device is not connected. So I'm not sure what's going on there, girlfriend. So I can't get you. But if you want to call in, and you can make your comments on the air. That link is there. You just click it, and I can put you on the show. Ain't not about, and you don't even build it. I know. And I saw some videos with them, and I'm telling you, they were the most hideous looking Gila monsters you've ever seen in your life. And I'm thinking that's why you have to go on a plane somewhere to get some female attention, because over here, nobody would look like a roach. And it's just, this is just like toe up. And, they'd be misbuilt, like all skinny, or they too fat or something. Something's going on, and it's just, they're not cute. So, they have to go somewhere, I think, where they feel like women don't have much standards or choice, and then they can get a little attention, because they would get none, zero over here. Yeah, girl. They usually, when them types come over here, I got her Tom your tears of wine to me. I love it. I say martinis, but it's the same, the same concept. When they usually come over here, they don't stay very long, because they start in with that crap and they get ripped to shreds, either by me or Candace or one of the ladies. They get, like really corrected, and then they don't like getting told about themselves. So they don't tend to stay on this channel, because we're not about that life. We're not about women bowing down or submitting, lowering their heads, or in any way diminishing themselves to make sad and sorry men feel better about their nothingness. I am strongly against that. And people say, well, that's because you're not religious. It don't have nothing to do with religion. It has to do with you as a woman having some pride about yourself. Just because you feel like because you're a woman that you're less than a man, you're not. Life comes through you. And you sitting up there talking about what the Bible says and stuff. Well, don't you think that if your God made it that way, that he knew what he was doing? You are the vessel for life. The rest of the humanity depends on you. Why would you be given that responsibility if you were not important? Like I said, I'm not the least bit religious person, but I know what I think, and I know what I read, and I understand what I read. And to me, it's like, Adam was the test tube baby, and Eve was the real thing. Okay. Why do women want it, but they feel like only wanting is valid? Because they're selfish. Girl, is this a trick question? Of course they think it all about themselves. That's what narcissists do. They think about themselves and their needs, and how they can get their needs met with as little impact and expense and energy expended on their side, but what they want to get the maximum return on their little meager investment. That's why. That's exactly why. I don't know. Yeah, men should be bowing down. They would actually get better results if they did. But, there's a lot, you can't feel like women are something special and important if you have these dudes in your ears, men who treat women nicely and with respect and stuff, get called names by these other guys, like simps, lames. What's some of the other? I can't remember all the names, but it's all negative. None of it is, kind. And they try to make these guys feel bad. They berate them and demean them. And the guys, of course, being weak, they crumble. If they had strong backbones, they would tell them dudes to shut up. It's like I got women coming out my ears being around me because you get more bees with honey than you do vinegar. Y'all over there pissing vinegar and stuff. That's why you got all this time to be complaining on the internet, because you ain't getting no trim. No woman want to be bothered with you. Whereas I got a book full of ladies and a date every night if I wanted one, because I know how to treat women. See, that's the part that they don't get. Women, they don't give us nice guys a chance because you don't know what you're doing. You talk to women crazy. You say awful things to them. You ask stupid questions and you send stupid pictures, and you're just disgusting and gross. And no woman wants to be bothered with you. You have weirdo energy, and it comes across in women. When you don't have confidence and you come across as weak, and it's just not sexy. And so when you got to do with all these different social problems, mental problems, and emotional, they don't know how to socialize, and they don't have any conversation, and they're just weird, and they're misbuilt, and they sit on the couch too much, and they have that neck posture. They're overweight. They got big guts, and they're only 30 years old and stuff like that. It's like, what are you doing? You're in the prime of your life. You should be hitting the gym. You should be running, and you should be fine. And then you could have women and know how to talk to people. Have some conversation, why don't you? Say please and thank you and be like a gentleman sometimes. Stop sending weirdo pictures and sliding into people's DMs with foul, funky stuff. These dudes, they just, ooh. Yeah, the necks are just awful. Their posture is gross. And so, when they're standing there and stuff, they're all bent over like this, and they don't have any muscle tone. Their bodies are like mush. None of it is sexy. None of it. And then they wonder why no woman wants them. You looking at you, she got more muscles than you. Ooh, I'm just saying. I call it misbuilt. MISBUILT. And then these, little T-Rex arms and stuff. Girl, I cannot. And got them little Tweedledee legs. Oh my God, and had a nerve to be trying to put on some shorts. Please don't do that this summer. Cover them sticks up. That's not cute. And putting, the white dudes, they be having them like legs to be like Snow White and shit. And it's like, oh my God, it's like the sun hits that shit and people get blinded. Go and do a spray tan or something with yourself. Don't be going outside looking like that. Just looking like a hot mess. I'm just saying. I don't know. Because I grew up and like my daddy, he didn't, exercise really, but he did a lot of physical work. So he was cut like it was solid muscle. And then, my brothers did like karate and kung fu and basketball and did weights and all stuff. So, all the men in my family, like everybody, they all, did manual labor or did some kind of, sports or something. So they, had a nice body. So I wasn't used to seeing young men looking like these young men look now. It's like they all fat and just got no muscle tone, nothing. And just weird posture. And they walk around, it's just not cute. So these girls be talking about, well, I like those guys that look androgynous. It's like, what's wrong with you? Your dude should look like from the back. Everybody should be able to tell who's the dude and who's the girl. Okay, it shouldn't be a doubt in anybody's mind. Yeah, girl, fourth trimester. No, you did not. But that's what I'm talking about. So it's like, from the perspective, and it's like nobody's telling these young men this. They think this shit is okay. And then they wonder why no girls want to talk to them. You look a mess. Dude, bathe sometimes, why don't you? And use soap and water and shampoo your hair. Brush your teeth, see a dentist. Get that grill worked on. Floss and stuff. You be trying to kiss somebody and get their breath smell like shit. That is not cute at all. You like beefy guys. Yeah, when I wrap my arms around you, I want to feel some bulk. I want to feel some muscles. I want some back and some shoulders and some arms and some chest. This little thing where you be like a little toothpick, that just don't be working for me. And I know there's guys who have a hard they have a, that what they call hard gainers. The trainers call them hard gainers. They have a really hard time putting on muscle mass. Usually, though, that's because they don't eat enough. They have dainty appetites. or they're picky eaters. It's something they picked up in childhood, picky eating. And so they just take it into adulthood and they don't eat enough calories to sustain the workouts that they want to try to do, let alone build muscle, which means you need even more calories. They don't eat enough. They skip meals and eat junk and stuff. So yeah, like marshmallow bodies. Mm-mm. Yeah, this one girl was telling me how her boyfriend, I don't know if she gonna call him her boyfriend, but anyway, this dude she was went out with, she went to his house because they were going to go somewhere, and he hadn't gotten dressed yet. He just rummaged on the floor, found a t-shirt that was on the floor, so that means it was something he'd already worn, right, dirty, and just shook it, sprayed it with some Febreze, and put it on. This guy's in his 20s. She's in her 20s. And I said, and you still went out with him? And she said, well, yeah, because I was already there. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, let me just tell you what you just did. You just slid into like trifling woman land. Your standards for a man, you just showed him you don't have any. Because what you should have done was turned around and went right back out the door. He's not making any effort to present himself as a clean together guy to go out with you. He just put on some shit that he found on the floor and sprayed it with Febreze, and you watched him do that and you still went out with him? It's a little white girl. And she's like, well, I didn't really think too much about it. I said, oh, well, please think about this in the future. And any man who does not make an effort, should be like, jeans clean, shirt clean. Even if he wore a t-shirt, it should be clean. It shouldn't be wrinkled. It shouldn't have been on the floor, and it shouldn't smell like Febreze. Okay, because if he's doing all that, that means he probably didn't shower either. So you went out with somebody who was funky and who had clothes that was dirty on the floor, smelling like Febreze, and that was okay with you. Your standards need to be upgraded. Your self-confidence must be in the toilet, as with your self-esteem. No woman who cared about herself would accept that kind of stuff from a dude. I just couldn't believe it. I would never, he could lose my number after that. If I'm seeing you do that shit, it's one thing if you came out and I suspect it, but I'm gonna sit there and watch you do it. I got to show this. That's a good one. But that's some bullshit, but it's still, that. But this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. See, if young ladies had higher standards, which their mothers are obviously not teaching them, they wouldn't get away with this kind of stuff because they wouldn't be getting the women. They wouldn't be getting women's attention. So if she said, you nasty motherfucker, nobody's going nowhere with you. You stink. Your house stinks. Your clothes stink, and you're garbage. You're a garbage pail kid picking up a shirt up off the floor, muttering and cussing as I walked out the door. But see, had she done something like that, he would never do that again. But since she was okay with it, that's going to be their life now, because she was okay with it. So he didn't have to make any kind of effort at all, none. And he still got her attention. So I'm just no standards, no boundaries, no standards. Yeah, I just don't understand it. So I hope that this was a good discussion for you guys, and that it raised your awareness. You got to kind of keep up with what's happening politically, especially as it may impact you and your rights as a woman. There is one good thing, like around the world, women are starting to fight back finally against this, these men competing in women's sports activities and taking women's trophies and stuff and scholarships. They finally are starting to fight back. I don't know why they let that shit go through in the first place. If my daughter played sports, I would have been on everybody's radio station, TV station, internet channel, everywhere, making videos to fight against that. Men in wigs and shit talking about, and there are always guys who would fail if they competed against other men, but they want a trophy. So they go and they try to compete against women. Well, women don't have this physical strength that men do. They don't have the upper body strength that men do. So yeah, a guy in a woman's competition is going to for the most part, he's going to beat the woman because he's just stronger and bigger. That's just more muscle mass, testosterone. So, but finally, yeah, they're fighting back because their daughters are losing scholarship opportunities to these boys. And I'm like, these coaches that let that shit, and these schools that let that shit happen, they should have been like, oh, hell no. I don't care what kind of laws you try to make, Obama. That shit is not flying, and everybody should have fought back. All the states should have fought that shit. No, we're not letting boys in the girls' locker room. I don't care what your fucking ass feels like you are when you woke up today. You got a dick. Your ass is a boy. You're going to go into the boys' locker room. And that's just the way it is. You don't like it, then go change in your car or some shit. I don't care what you do. But you're not going to be so tormenting the girls. And that's just the way it is. So get over it. So, but anyway, people are fighting back. You guys need to fight back against this stuff. Stay politically aware. Keep up with what's going on in the world. And then anything that's infringing on your rights as a woman, you go to bat for yourself. Don't you let them treat you like that at all, ever. Okay, you guys, you need to get the fire in you. You play this video, or you send me an email, I'll light your ass up real quick and give you some energy. But I only have so much bandwidth. So, I got to work. So I got to keep, pay my bills and stuff too. So I can't do this 24/7 yet. I'm not that much of a baller, and I'm not ready to retire. So, I have to do stuff, my little contracts and my stuff to make my money. So I have to devote some time to that. And then I do this too, and try to keep you guys up to speed on stuff and motivate you to do better as a group of women. Okay. So you guys take care. We'll be back on, what day do we come back? On Wednesday, huh? We come back on Wednesday, and we're going to be doing our next, this is not the right slide, but I'll just show this one. What the Fuck Wednesday. That's our live stream relationship advice show. So if you have a question that you'd like to submit to that, you send it in to, you go to what's the website, Shay? Debsterism.com, and fill out the form there, submit your question there. You still have time. She does the questions up until Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, actually. And then she sends me the document. I print it out, and then we do the show. There's usually about 25 questions every week. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to get your question answered on the show. And then in a couple of weeks after that, we'll start the Dusty News Network. If you have something you want to send in, some dusty content, that's survivingdating at gmail.com. So everybody who's new here, please hit the like button and the subscribe button to the channel, so you get a reminder when we get with our great programming. DNN is hilarious. It's nothing serious. It's just fun. On Friday, it's just funny. Friday night fun, but we laugh, and that's our summer programming. So other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see y'all on Wednesday evening. Okay.